What are some signs you're conventionally ugly? I don't mind this one as I'm married to a bombshell, but my wife and I met up with my brother, 12 years younger, his girlfriend, and their friends. We went out drinking. I'm more of a man cave with friends type of drinker, not the clubbing type. But since they asked and we had no plans, we went along for the ride. As the night progressed, girls were actively hitting on some of my brother's friends that I was chatting with. The girls, well, they didn't even look in my direction. Most of them didn't even acknowledge my presence at the table. I don't wear my wedding ring as I do a lot of manual labor involving moving heavy things around. There were no visible indications that I was married. My wife, on the other hand, had to keep flashing her ring as she was constantly getting attention from little boys wanting her attention. She got sick of it and ended up sitting on my lap, kissing me regularly to keep them away. So 1, my wife is hot. 2, I'm not. In other words, conventionally ugly. Or I'm just getting old and aging like milk. I don't know. My wife compliments me though, and I can live with that. Well, he's got the perfect setup. A hot wife and the peace of mind that comes with being overlooked. It's a win-win. Story 2. Conducting yourself as if you're ugly. During 2020, I wasn't using makeup or taking hormones. This quote-unquote ugly guy, his words, who I live with in a shared house and took an interest in me once, told me on a date, "What do you do to not feel ugly all the time?" At first, I was obviously offended and never dated him again, but then I realized that although I sometimes struggle with my self-image, carrying myself with confidence gives me all the positives typically associated with moderately attractive people. I'm universally well-liked, receive many compliments from women in public, and get quite a few comments in my DMs from men, which I've learned is a common experience. I used to be quite insecure and I felt I was treated as ugly in the past. However, after watching a TED Talk that discussed how self-perceived ugliness can negatively impact academic performance, like SAT scores, I forcefully changed my perspective. I highly recommend it. Story 3. I got this. Compliments are, "You're so intelligent. You dress so well. I like guys who don't care about their looks." Kids get scared when you walk in a room. You're doing security at a nightclub and go to ask some cute girl to step away from the door and she says, "Not in your wildest dreams." You're listening to a stand-up routine on earphones and smile just as a woman walks by and she says, "Not into cross-species dating." You're walking in front of someone and you hear their footsteps, then turn to look and they're visibly frightened. Your daughter says, "I'm glad you're not good-looking because then you wouldn't be my dad." Your daughter says, "You look like a monster." Story 4. Personally, I've found that conventionally quote-unquote ugly guys often possess qualities that I value. Kindness, humor, interesting hobbies, and a certain charm. It seems that some people who are considered conventionally attractive might spend more time focusing on their appearance or engaging in less stimulating activities. However, it's important to remember that these are just generalizations and there are exceptions to every rule. There are plenty of fascinating, kind, and intelligent people of all appearances. I've been fortunate to have relationships with people of diverse looks and personalities. While I've enjoyed casual encounters with physically attractive individuals, I've found that my most fulfilling and intellectually stimulating relationships have been with those who aren't conventionally, quote-unquote, hot. Ultimately, beauty is subjective. What one person finds attractive, another may not. It's essential to appreciate the diversity of human experience and to seek out connections with people who share your values and interests, regardless of their physical appearance. So, she's saying ugly guys are the real catch? I might need to rethink my life choices. Story 5. Small thing like how people like cashiers and female coworkers talk to you. Having no friends, not being invited out anywhere, or being asked to take a picture but not be in it. This happened during my college graduation. I asked them, "Okay, I do this. Will you guys take a picture with me?" The look on their face was crazy and I just walked away from them afterwards. I was like, "Yeah, what do you take me for, a fool?" and walked away. Honestly, biggest sign is how you were treated in high school. Sounds corny, even saying that. But hear me out, it's the one time in life, in my opinion, where people generally have no filter. And social status honestly depends more on your looks than anything else. If you got treated like trash, well, chances were either people really didn't like you, social skills were just not good enough, or you were considered unattractive and different from other people. Story 6. When I was in college, a friend of mine set me up with a classmate of his. They were in another school a state away and I was due to visit there for a festival. He must have built me up real well because when he introduced us, she shook my hand and playfully told my friend, "Hey, you told me your friend was good looking," and laughed. We both stared at her, but she just walked off and I never saw her again. Not that I wanted to. I wish I could say we had a long, angry conversation about it and got some closure, but about 10 minutes later, we were drinking whiskey and enjoying the music. I still sometimes think about it though, nearly 30 years later. Also, I have a friend who I think is cute, but she has frizzy hair and bad skin. Strangers would randomly try to give her advice on how to improve them. I was shocked when she told me, but even more so when we were waiting in line for coffee one day and a random woman behind us tapped her shoulder and she suggested she use conditioner for her hair and should see a dermatologist. Like, how rude is that? I witnessed it a few times. Poor girl. She said it has happened to her whole life. Story 7. I'm extremely overweight, so I always get told that I need to lose weight, and people don't want to offend me if they say something about being fat. Some people even make fun of me being fat, so I feel like I'm trapped inside a nightmare body that I can't change because of my health problems. I have hypothyroidism. If you have it, you would completely understand. Hypothyroidism makes it hard for me to lose weight. I basically have to become anorexic to lose weight at this point. In fact, I already have when I lost 60 pounds the first time, and I got complimented so much and people were eyeing me. It didn't take long for the weight to pile back on, so I just feel completely hopeless. I've been told that I don't fit the beauty standard, and people get shocked about how my boyfriend would date someone like me. I hate it. I feel like I'm losing the battle. People always call you ugly, they laugh at you, they treat you badly for being ugly. You never receive compliments, you were never someone's crush, no one ever approaches to you to talk. It doesn't matter how good you are, if you have good intentions, people won't listen to you or won't want to get to know you. You get tired of listening to people telling you appearance is the least important thing, personality matters more, and then they tell you that you have to change because you look bad and more. All this is what I have lived and live to this day. Story 8. I grew up with 2 older sisters. We were all a little more than 1 year apart. The oldest was a 10, beautiful, knockdown, gorgeous. The other, quite frankly, was a 1. Guys would ask me about the pretty one due to their belief she's got a long line of suitors and maybe they themselves are not good looking enough to ask her and get rejected. There was no inventory of guys. A few guys asked her out and she never turned down the guy. But not as many as you would think. Guys who had to check their courage with me never called on her. I learned from that observation that do not fear the attractive, at least ask her or him out. Beauty is different from everyone's POV. Many people who think they are unattractive are actually attractive and have convinced themselves they are marginal in the looks department. Sometimes my sister looked in the mirror and though she was a disaster, other times not. My other sister managed through life. She had friends who invited her to join the church and had a full life in the church and was happy. At least she had a front row seat to some serious sibling drama. That's got to be worth something, right? A few lessons learned here and there. Story 9. This happened to me the other day. I got up, I showered, I dressed in clean clothing. I'm well-groomed with short hair, a shaved face, and nice glasses. I went to the grocery store and started to do my weekly shopping. As I was making my way through the store, I noticed another woman glance my way, saw a look of disgust cross her face, and then she looked away. Maybe I'll remind her of her ex, I thought to myself. I continued shopping. In a later aisle, I saw another woman, much older this time, look up from her list, look at me with a shocked expression on her face. She muttered, "Oh my," turned around and left that aisle. When I was picking up some cereal, a mother of 2 kids came into the aisle, saw me, and said, "Why don't we get our cereal later when the aisle is less crowded?" I was the only person in the aisle. Then in the checkout line, a very young kid was in the shopping cart in front of me and shouted to his mother, "Mama, look at that man, he's so ugly." Story 10. In my late teens and early 20s, I was pretty damn good looking, but bad genes. Around 23, my blonde hair turned nondescript brown, got sudden onset male pattern baldness, and my body insisted on getting fat despite robust exercise and eating less. I can remember in the space of a year, I went from half the cute girls I would walk by would glance up and give me a shy smile to nobody would look me in the eye and glance up. There are not really many conventionally ugly people. These posts reek of insecurity. Being that ugly is practically being disfigured. If you are looking at it objectively, a permanent disfiguration that really messes up the symmetry of the face is what makes you ugly most of the time. And it has to be something big. Some scars make people look cool and hot, so it needs to be evaluated. Small or big noses, weak or strong chins, straight or crooked teeth don't make up beauty. Some imperfections even make you more attractive. Just because you are not the type of person you fancied before or not your own type doesn't make you ugly. It just makes you average at worst. Sheesh, and I don't know when people will understand that. Beauty is not a necessity, it's a bonus. Just be well-groomed, clean, and dressed properly for your body, and you're golden. Not everybody has to be beauty incarnated, and being beautiful doesn't automatically mean everything is okay for you. Story 11. Society is so shallow when it comes to looks that it's almost embarrassing. For the most part, people treat me like my presence, discuss them, and actively stay away from me. Men, if I have to be frank, treat me like trash, if they even acknowledge my presence, which if looks are important to them, they don't. They're very rude, dismissive, and would say the vilest things around me. It's hard to explain without sounding crazy, but sometimes it gets so bad that even my attractive friends used to notice and call them out on it. So no, this isn't just a me thing. I've even heard the same experiences from other conventionally ugly women too. According to some of them, they theorize that those types of men treat us that way because they don't want us to flirt or fall in love with them, and they misconstrue our friendliness as getting too close to them, so the terrible treatment is them nipping it in the bud, something like that. I've seen the switch up when those types of men interact with my more attractive friends, and I was much better looking in the past, and then I got depressed, gained weight, and my features aren't the best anyway. I know the difference in how people used to treat me versus how they do now. It's a very humbling experience if I had to be completely honest. Story 12. Ugly Privilege. I'm a 35-year-old, intelligent, successful, and well-regarded woman. I've never been hit on, experienced wolf whistling, or common street pestering. I've had people hurled at me in hateful grabs, but I've never been flirted with, asked for a number, or gone on a date. In happy news, I met my now husband of 12 years when we were just two awkward teenagers online. I say we never dated because it was long distance. He visited here once for 4 weeks before packing up a suitcase and moving here, Australia for Alaska, for good. I'm a solid 0.5, but our marriage is great and I get to work in a male-dominated industry without ever experiencing pestering. I mean, to answer the question, it's usually people who've let themselves go because generally there is usually something attractive about everyone. But the way you're shaped and the way you carry yourself about it can make or break. But if you have an ugly personality, nothing can change that except that person actively making changes to better themselves. Story 13. I play a game called How Long Until They Unmatch. Whether it's Bumble or Match or Tinder, if I get a match notification, I'll check every 10 to 20 minutes to see when they unmatch. Usually within 30 minutes, they remove my match. Another fun game is How Long Until They Block. I have a key Tumblr and I'll get messages from girls based on my posts. Once we get to sharing photos, I'll just send them a selfie and then I'll see I'm blocked. I've also played how many rejections I'll get. I once got 20 plus rejections to dance at a club. I literally just walked up to girls and just asked to dance. I gave up around, 26 straight because I was depressed at that point. I also tried to see if personalized messages on dating sites or mass fill-in-the-blank messages work best. It didn't matter. My response rate was like 1%. Story 14. I have a unibrow. It's not even that noticeable, but still. And also, I have a higher level of testosterone than most women, so I have really bad sideburns, arm hair, leg hair, armpit hair. I'm going to have a neck beard and mustache too. And I'm also slightly chubby, but all of the, chub is on my stomach. It's not that bad, but it kind of looks like I'm pregnant, to be honest. I hate myself so much, it's not even funny. Whenever I look in the mirror, I cry. I've never had a boyfriend, and I probably never will. When I was younger, the classic was being asked out or to a party as a joke. Peak 7th grade humor, a bunch of boys snickering and calling so-and-so's name wants to ask you out, followed by more poorly disguised laughter, or popular kids doing the same kind of thing about inviting you to a party. The thing is, those kids grow up into normal, sociable young adults who probably don't care too much about appearances, but the damage is already done. You've formed a hard wall and present an angry, closed-off demeanor that non-verbally screams, "Get off," because you'd prefer almost anything over being made to feel like a fool. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and you end up not just ugly, but ugly and alone. Story 15. Children and old people tell you in your face. People immediately recommend remedies to fix your quote-unquote flaws. I'm not ugly, quite attractive in fact, but I am a dark-skinned woman with acne and thinning hair in a country where light skin is the first condition to being beautiful. People gossiped about my appearance at all family functions. My grandmother in her last years of life did not hesitate to point out my skin tone. My niece, as a toddler, also didn't hesitate to tell me that I'm ugly because I have pimples and she's beautiful because she doesn't. If I had a nickel for every time someone recommended some homemade concoction to solve my acne, I'd be swimming in money. I'm a self-confessed ugly person. It is what it is, but the tell that usually gets me is whenever I get a guy, there'll always be someone that drops the, "How did you manage that?" almost innocently without malice. It's like a ton of bricks. I moved abroad and here it's not the same way, so I am considered more attractive and I can feel the difference. Sometimes you're not ugly, you're just in the wrong country. Story 16. The faces you make and body language. Balding men can be very attractive, but instead of shaving it all off, try a 5 o'clock shadow to soften the look. We discussed this yesterday when all the men were shaving their heads and growing a goatee, trying to be Bruce Willis. Go to a real barber or stylist and ask for help. If you think you're ugly, you will be. I used to be obese and had crooked teeth. I thought I was ugly and portrayed myself to others as such. I got braces and lost weight and wanted to be beautiful, not only to myself, but to portray myself to others as a beautiful person. Once I started to believe I was a beautiful creation directly from God, this is what I became, a beautiful creature directly from the creation of the most beautiful and most high creator. You all may not like this answer, but this is what has helped me. It is the only thing that has helped me. I prayed and believed that I am and that I will be, so forth I became. Story 17. People say you look older or look mean or any other backhanded comment. I had a coworker one day comment on this customer who came in. He was attractive and she mentioned how hot he was. She said, "Yeah, but I bet he's a schmuck. The hot ones are always schmucks." Then she turned to me and said, "I'd rather work with someone like you. People like you are always nice." I responded, "People like me?" She said, "Yeah, the hot ones are schmucks. People like you are always nice." Okay, got it. I've also been compared with Paris Hilton, and that really irked me more than anything. Like, I know I'm ugly, but you don't have to be that low. I can speak from experience on this one. I'm constantly ignored like I'm invisible when I try to make eye contact and smile at a woman. I get zero replies on dating apps or sites even when I try to initiate. Tried changing my profile pictures many times, all different styles. If I ever get any contact at all, maybe 3 or 4 times a year, I get 1 or 2 questions and responses in, then I'm ghosted. And this has been going on for years, so yeah, I know now I'm ugly. Story 18. When your mother talks about all the surgeries you're going to have to get as you get older, let me explain. I had an acquaintance many years ago who had 3 or a 4-year-old child. Now, this child was ugly, I can say it. The mother said it constantly. The mom would constantly go through the list of things she was going to have to surgically correct on her daughter, and the list always started with having her ears pinned back, nose job, chin work, build up cheeks, lower the hairline, etc. You get it. Mom called her daughter E.T. or ugly. I wonder sometimes what happened to that girl. She would be about 41 or so now. Also, when I was a teenager and at a barbecue with my friend group and all their parents, my friend's somewhat intoxicated mom gathered everyone in a circle to say how much she loved all of us. She complimented all of my friends one by one while the rest of us, including all parents, were silently listening. "X, your beauty is so radiant and Y's beauty has such a glow, it's no wonder all the boys fall for you. And Z is just so stunning and so incredibly intelligent." And then she got to me. She stared at me blankly. Everyone else stared at me silently. She had nothing to say about how I looked, so she said nothing and moved on to the next beautiful friend. It was humiliating. Story 19. The biggest sign for me was when I was at the local carnival and told a girl I thought she was beautiful and asked her if she and her friend wanted to hang out with me and my friend. She just said ew and winced her face while looking at her friend, then they both walked away laughing. That butterfly affected its way into some mental health issues I deal with today. It made me largely stop trying. I started thinking I was disgusting to look at, so now I can't look people in the eye when I talk to them because I'm worried that they don't want to look at me. I've never had intimacy and likely never will because I'm afraid of it now. Never had a girlfriend. I've never even kissed someone. My biggest sign was when I tried dating apps for a couple of years and never got a single reply or had anyone initiate a conversation with me. I figured after hundreds and hundreds of messages, someone would eventually bite. I didn't throw out any lazy hey messages. Everything was catered to something in their profile. There could have been something wrong with my profile, but I'm convinced it's because I'm just gross, disgusting looking pig person and my pictures immediately turned all of them away. Other general signs for me is that no women ever approach me. I have quite a few conventionally attractive male friends and I pretty frequently see women engaging them and flirting. But that has never happened once for me. The only thing a stranger would know about me from a first encounter is how I look. So it has to be the reason they don't approach me at all. The only female friends I have are from encounters where they couldn't see me at first. Like I have a friend that I've known for almost 15 years that I met playing World of Warcraft. Another friend that I met playing Pokemon Go but through our local Discord server. I'd done a few raids with her but not directly face to face. I have a bunch of other online female friends that I've met through gaming as well that didn't know what I looked like at first. So the common denominator is that they got to know me as a person first before they saw me. So they were more willing to engage. I just can't help but assume it's because I'm ugly and it grosses women out and they just want nothing to do with me. And if you're enjoying the video so far, no matter how painful the stories are, please don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 20. My friend and I were talking, and some guy from behind us called out, like, "Excuse me, girls." Not exactly like that, but it was like plural. He was talking to both of us. When we turned around, he looked at both of us, then at my friend, and was like, "Can I get your number?" And this happens a lot. Once we were walking together, and a guy called her cute and made sure I knew he wasn't talking to me. Thing is, when I'm alone, I get flirted with, but never when I'm with other girls. I'm the bottom of the barrel choice. If they could have anyone else, they would, but they feel like I'm easy because I'm not conventionally attractive and am desperate for attention. And as for me, I have a very broad spectrum of who I find attractive. Tall, short, stout, and thin, I can find many men to be attractive. But here are the things that turn me off as far as looks. Number one would be bad hygiene. If you have greasy hair, you smell, or you don't brush your teeth, nothing else matters. Grooming. A little really, if you look unkept, it tells me a lot about the rest of your life. Long nails, not having a nice haircut, and wearing dirty clothing is a huge red flag. Morbid obesity. I myself am not thin, but I would not date someone who decided to not take care of themselves to that level. I want someone who I can go on hikes with and in general live an active lifestyle with. Often, morbid obesity can really limit that. I'm not looking for a six-pack, just not someone who is 300 pounds. Story 21. I started hanging out with this group of younger, really good-looking guys, all gay like me. I always believed in the saying, "You're as attractive as your friends," and these guys were easily 7s and 8s out of 10. I'd been through some rough times but was finally employed again, had gained some weight back after losing it unhealthily, and thought, cool, I must be looking better if these guys want to hang out with me. It took me about 6 weeks of Sunday brunches to discover that there was a no grinder rule. I assumed everyone was using it, but then someone else left their phone on, and that unmistakable grinder notification sound went off. It started a conversation, and they began explaining to me, the new guy, why they had this no grinder rule. One by one, they turned their apps on. Dear God in heaven, my grinder had been on during every brunch. In 6 weeks, with 2-hour brunches and similar hangouts, I might have gotten one hit. These 4 or 5 guys turned theirs on, and the goddamn waiter had been sending them messages. I had sent like 10 highs without a single response during brunch. Within 5 minutes of them turning their apps on, they had 10 message notifications between the 5 of them. Apparently, they thought I was funny once from my jaded worldview, and they assumed I was wealthy. About 6 weeks later, I realized they saw me as their pity friend, the one they bring around because they feel bad for him. I was shattered. They were getting messages and offers from every single profile within a mile. I must have been one of the guys they made fun of before they knew me. Story 22. I prefer conveniently ugly. I no longer reach any normal levels of conventionally good looking since I let myself gain weight. It's scary how much it changed my face, and as it gets rounder, I start to look like one of those jolly fat people. As I was generally smiley but very serious person while in shape, I was a leader. But I hurt my hip, strained a tendon permanently, all mostly in my right leg. Set me up for dad bod, to uncle bod, to bob bod. My hair grayed out in less than a year. My skin started to develop psoriasis. My teeth, are crooked from lacking space. And when my face gets round, it adds like 10 years to me. No joke. Every time I try to get back into shape, but since that combo injury to my leg, it's terribly hard. Last year, I went on a carnivore diet, did some nightly stationary biking at home, and in 60 days, I dropped so much weight from not eating anything processed and doing general exercise, I look like a new person. Sadly, I wasn't able to keep to that lifestyle from my lack of willpower when faced with too many peers. Don't worry, man, one time won't hurt you, you'll be fine. But once I hit that zone, I was no longer physically attractive to anyone. Ha ha ha. Funny how 60 pounds changes a person from hero to zero. Story 23. You don't really get the traditional experience of being asked on a date, with the quote-unquote traditional experience being someone who you aren't already close with has a romantic interest in you and they forego any pretense of wanting to be friends or acquaintances by expressing their romantic intentions up front. If they don't have any attraction to you from the moment they first look at you, it probably won't go this way. When you do find a romantic connection, it tends to be with someone whom you already share some sort of connection with as a friend. When that person first saw you, they didn't necessarily feel a strong attraction. That attraction may have only come as a result of your personality, hopefully enough to overcome any shortcomings in your looks. Another corollary to this would be that you find it easy to make friends with the opposite gender, or your desired gender, but still have had a hard time getting dates, compensating with personality. One time, I got told I looked like Adele's younger sister, and for some reason I took massive offense to that. First off, I can't sing, which I wasn't doing in the first place, but that's literally the first thing that popped into my head. And second, I'm 5 years older than her. And I said that to the guy, and he laughed it off, and he asked strangers if they thought I looked like Adele's younger sister, and they were just nodding in agreement. I don't know, it still bothers me for some reason because I have a very round head and face and no butt chin and have no similarities other than my hair was blonde at the time. Story 24. When people are walking in your direction at raves or shows and you make eye contact with them and they immediately turn around and give you a dirty look. Made eye contact one time with this person accidentally and they screamed, "Oh, hell no," in my face and damn near ran away. I'm conventionally average enough, I guess. I've always thought I was ugly, but that's mostly because I have severe self hatred. Currently, losing my hair, which isn't helping. People have said I'd look good bald due to having a good skull shape, but I decay. People always compliment me in pictures, but I just don't like myself. Never had an issue talking and joking with women, though. Story 25. I don't mean to humble brag, as I think I've grown into someone that is considered conventionally attractive, but boy, did I have my moments growing up. My older brother was the popular athletic one growing up, and I was always the cute but nerdy little brother who would be picked last in gym or basketball. In high school, I finagled my way into getting invited to a party and we played spin the bottle. One of the conventionally hot girls in our grade landed on me and basically recoiled. To be nice, she reluctantly brought her lips to my cheek. I really can't even call it a kiss, and instantly went back to her spot on the floor. Definitely a hard thing to deal with in your adolescence and especially in a room full of your cool peers. Hope everyone in this thread is doing well. Looks aren't everything. I think it's just having people, strangers around you, literally not giving a damn about you or having absolutely no interest in getting to know you unless you're interested in a very specific way, or if they need something from you. People just walk right past you as if you don't exist, or if you are extremely ugly, they'll usually either stare at you a lot or try to avoid looking at you as much as possible. Story 26. The first is that people try to find excuses to blame you for stuff or mark you as suspicious, like getting tailed by anti-shoplifter agents in malls. People don't trust you near children. People ignore you, like waiters, shop clerks, and other service people. If something tragic happens to you, like you fall down, they look away. You don't get many opportunities handed to you, and often you have to work twice as hard to get someone to notice you. One of the most tragic things that happen to attractive people is if they become ugly. Sometimes ugly is subjective, like all some women have to do is age. Ask anyone who was pretty and popular up until their 20s and suddenly thinks everyone becomes mean and awful to them. It's the same people, lady. They just stop paying attention to you like they used to when you look like a 21-year-old starlet. Yes, that's unfair, but the world didn't change. It's been like this for the rest of us all along. You just never had to deal with it until recently. Story 27. To me, it was girls I was obviously flirting with, not realizing I was because it simply wasn't possible that someone like me was actually trying to hit on them. They legit looked shocked when I asked them out, like a horrible realization suddenly hit them. Then the usual, "Oh, I thought you were just a nice slash open slash cheeky slash easygoing person," or something like that. The worst ones were when they flirted back because they thought it was just banter between friends or colleagues. I'm speaking in past tense because I gave up around 6 years ago at 28. I had some good runs in my early 20s that didn't last much, then the amount of effort it took me wasn't worth it anymore and made me quit that side of my life for good. Seriously, not needing to worry about that is very liberating. Story 28. Seriously, I'm a good-looking man, so I can't relate to how you are feeling, but one useful tip I could pass on is, it's something I do when coming off of a job site. Head to toe, full of concrete, probably not smelling my best, definitely not in a position to make a good first impression, but I don't care about how I look. If I see a woman who appeals to me, I'm willing to approach her. Relying on my sense of humor, I have confidence to spare, I've been told. End result, 95% of the time, I walk away with her contact or a date and their contact info. Point is, make light of whatever your shortfall might be, like in the case of me being dressed in concrete. I joke about how bad the other guy looked, that I had a concrete fight with look, claiming they're gonna need a jackhammer to free him. Goofy, but effective. Next thing, she's laughing, we're chatting and getting to know her. My appearance is kind of a moot point by now. I understand it's not the same, but it really is. I look 10 times worse than an alien and probably smelled like one, but a sense of humor, some confidence, that's key. Hope this helps, friend. Story 29. A lot of people in this thread are confusing being annoying POS with actually being ugly. People being rude or generally not wanting to talk to you or to be around you is most likely just a sign that your personality is off-putting. Being ugly is usually more subtle stuff because most people will generally avoid telling people to their face that they're ugly when they actually are. Also, being unattractive does not necessarily mean you are ugly. This is especially true for guys because most of them are pretty average to even mildly good looking, except for the fact that they eat bad, dress like slobs, act like they were raised by wolves, and just generally put zero effort into the way they present themselves. There are exceptions, of course, and genuinely ugly people do exist, but the majority of people who bemoan being quote unquote ugly are just upset at not being quote unquote attractive to their preferred type. This is typically because they are either A, just generally off putting to be around, or B, put next to zero effort into taking care of themselves and being attractive, or both. Story 30. I used to be conventionally beautiful, but as I age in a very interesting way where my facial features change and I don't really look at all like my younger self. I look really old and very odd now in my late 40s, but the change was so interesting to me that I embrace it. I look much older. My nose really did get bigger and my skin became saggy and my eyelids became droopy too, making my eyes look smaller. Massive crow's feet. My hair thinned dramatically. I don't have any issues with being unattractive now. It's not important to me anymore at this age. It's just what happens with gravity and all. I went to the store a few months ago and this lady was talking to me about how she was getting married, and as the conversation ended, she said all emphatically, "Don't worry, there's even someone out there for you too. There's someone out there for everyone." I'd been married for a really long time by that time, and I thought it was funny because of what I used to look like and what she didn't know. I realized she was saying that because she thought I looked so super ugly, she assumed I gave up on dating and was resigned to life forever alone in my sad swamp hole. Story 31. This likely isn't the response people are looking for, but know that just because someone doesn't want you intimately does not mean you are not loved or admired. Society is hyper intimate and you don't need fanatics to be looked up to and thought kindly of. There are people out there who are not as concerned with looks as you may think. When I consider my female friends, I am not attracted to them. However, in my heart and soul, I know for a fact I would be lucky to spend the rest of my life with someone so supportive and kind. It would never be settling in my mind. I made it think about the man whose wife was severely disfigured in a fire, and they made a whole news story that focused on him being the brave one for still being with her. Like, huh? That's a man's wife. If she turned into a worm, like women ask, I would dig her an ecosystem and ensure its prosperity. Had she been a bird, I would create the nest and hope she fights instinct to be home with me, but I would never clip her wings, and my love will never be dependent upon the physical shape of a soul's manifestation. Is a book any less useful or lovable when battered? No, it's a book that's been read, a book with character. Story 32. I think ugly is a spectrum. People don't need to be gorgeous to be attractive to another individual. As a dude, I could see a very average looking woman that very clearly takes good care of herself and puts pride into her appearance, and that instantly adds points. Next, if I meet a woman and she seems dismissive or cold without even trying to, I lose all attraction. If she's kind and shares a similar sense of humor as me, there's some more points added on. All in all, guys, don't put too much weight on how attractive you perceive yourself to be, then you'll feel like a lost cause. Putting pride into your appearance can be as easy as bathing and putting on some clean clothes and then opening yourself to conversations, allowing others to see your sense of humor. You're all beautiful to me. Story 33. I was in a sorority and we did this activity where everyone wrote their name on an index card and passed them to the next person. You would write one word or phrase to describe them and keep passing it until they made it back around. It was absolutely horrible to see all the cards coming around full of beautiful, gorgeous, and then getting yours back with funny, a good friend, smart, etc. We did this with like 100 people, so not having a single one of those 100 people even put a pity beautiful was pretty rough after seeing most cards come by that were just full of praise on attractiveness. The other sad game was everyone standing in a circle with your eyes closed and a couple people would wander outside the circle and rotate. There'd be prompts like, pat someone on the back that you look up to, and stuff like that, and me getting no pats the entire game. So rough. It's not like I had no friends, but that one hurt. Don't do team building activities like this, y'all. Story 34. Unlikely this will be seen, but I wanted to chime in, just in case. Conventional beauty is a lie, and we would all be much happier if we learned to ignore it. Not that it's an easy task. Conventional beauty standards have changed based on the era and the location. What is beautiful to one group is not so beautiful to another. I myself find most of the extremely conventional attractive people in the US, which I am a citizen of, such as supermodels, celebrities, and influencers, to not be that very attractive. Our collective emphasis on beauty standards leads to lower QOL for ourselves and others and ignores the truth of the matter. The fact that there are conventional unattractive people in the world means that unattractive people are able to have partners and reproduce, which means that someone found them to be attractive in some way. The fact that ugly people exist proves that beauty and ugliness are purely subjective and we really shouldn't focus on it. Yes, if you're conventionally unattractive, you'll find that your pool of prospective partners shrinks, but does losing out on extremely superficial partners make your life worse? Story 35. I feel I'm pretty average looking, but probably on the lower side of average. I think most people are at least generally aware that they are not super attractive. But realistically, most of us are somewhere in the range of average depending on who is looking. Also, being likable tends to make people unconsciously rate you as more attractive, so it isn't exactly a set in stone rating that everyone will agree on. I will say that ultimately I was able to find a woman I love who I think is incredibly beautiful. She's wonderful and kind, who I think is very funny, and we just gel. Been together 12 years and have yet to have a fight or an argument. We have a similar communication style and have shared values, and that is the true beauty of the relationship. I think most people who are somewhat unattractive can certainly work to be a version that they are happy with and who can find a partner they love. Love is more about shared values and respect than looks, anyways. It can be hard to separate social and cultural beauty standards from what you want, so I wouldn't stress it too much. Just try to be healthy, a happy version of yourself. It requires a lot of work and you are never done, but I would say that the core should be aspirational rather than self loathing. The second will kill your motivation long term. Also, Tinder and similar apps are brutal if you are not conventionally attractive. Just try to build positive relationships with a lot of people with no particular expectation or goal of a relationship. A lot of times, interacting with people you are friends with and have shared interests with is how you get introduced to someone who is a good match. Story 36. A sign? You're invisible to the public, male, female, and everyone in between. I've never ever been approached by a man in some scary manner, or even a flirtatious or curious manner, that most women seem to have encountered in their life at some point. I hear the stories and see the social media videos, but have never experienced it firsthand. I don't fear for my safety when I'm out at night alone, as I know no one willingly wants to approach me. I don't have random people stop me for directions or questions about the area or a store I'm in, or just strike up a conversation in line. I'm invisible, it seems, and that's really isolating and fosters a deep sense of loneliness. I don't think I'm super ugly. I just doubt I'm over a 3 in general. This feeling of being invisible has only increased as technology has put a barrier or step between human interactions. How it is today, I could go weeks without talking to someone outside of my workplace. Even at work, I can go a day or two with no interactions with other coworkers. I can order groceries online and pick them up. I get asked, "Are you blank?" and I say yes, and that's the end of the grocery pickup conversation. I can order food on a restaurant's app and it'll be the same. I'm picking up for your name, and they hand me my food bag and I leave, whether it's drive-through or carry-out. I must be in a category of repulsive that affects everyone generally the same. A literal repulsive aura or energy that keeps people away from me. I used to lean into it, owning my isolation as an introvert, but having been forced into therapy after a mental break, I now realize the all-encompassing loneliness is deep and painful and not something I want in my life. I just want to be able to be around people and not feel like I'm driving them away. I don't need the social interaction, but I do need to not feel alone and isolated from the rest of humanity. And if you can connect with any one of these stories, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.